Thanks so much for tuning in to Cybernetique. You're joining us live from right outside the Alma Duncan studio, and I'm here with Echönymphia. This is Coco, and this is Viv. How are you guys doing?
Very good. Thank you. Pretty good. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that beautiful set earlier. Is this your first time in Ottawa?
It's our first time playing in Ottawa. Yeah, I think I've been there when I was a kid.
Yeah, same. First time playing here. I think I've been here a long time ago for like a family trip or something, but yeah.
So, what are your impressions of Ottawa so far?
We haven't visited so much. Like we just walked around the hotel a little bit and it was rainy today, so like we didn't get to see much, but we'll go around tomorrow. So, yeah.
We went to this Korean little like fast food place. Yeah, it was pretty chill. But we didn't really have time to wander around, so
It's a fun place to wander. I feel like even on Sundays, you will probably discover something cool. So, to talk to you more a little bit about your musical process, you've described it as structured improvisation. And I wanted to ask you a little bit more about how you make space for each other on stage as a duet that's working in more of an improvisational space.
Hmm. Yeah, well, most of our pieces are based on like pre-written melody or like structure, global structure. But the way we will improvise is just like we listen to each other a lot. And we're very like super aware of like any changes that the other person might come up with during our set. So we react to that. It's like a dialogue, like a live dialogue, but through our instruments, and we improvise very often together. So at some point, like we are able to anticipate what the other will say with their instrument. So that's how I would describe it.
yeah. I think you describe it pretty well. I would just add that to find like musical ideas, like we would record our practices and jams, and then we re-listen to them. So we do a lot of listening together, and then we point out what were the stuff that we really liked, and then we try to recreate them. And then in a live context, then as Coco said, like there's a lot of dialogue. So usually we have like cues, and one person starts playing something, and then like the other would know, okay, now we're here, and then we have
But in between, it's like it's always a little bit of a surprise, which is exciting too, because like we like every set is different, so it's fun.
I wanted to ask you more about how Echönymphia came to be. You both have really complementary, but definitely different musical backgrounds. So, how did you find each other?
we found each other in this DIY ambient show happening in Montreal. And it used to happen actually in your like old apartment. Yeah, and I was talking to this person, and I was like, it would be really great to be able to collaborate with a harpist. And then he was just like, oh, I actually know a harpist who's in this room right now. Do you want to go meet this person? And I was like, okay, let's do it. And then this person who introduced us happened to have a studio space where he hosts events. And then he was like, well, if you guys want, you can come play a show next week. I have a public event happening. So that's our first gig. And yeah, that's how we started jamming together. And then we just made it into a project.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anything
like
to add?
A happy match. Yeah.
And when did that process start? I had a hard time kind of figuring out when your sort of project became a live situation.
Well, I think we met during the pandemic. And so like we had a lot of time on our hands. And there was like this summer when we met, we actually were just going to the park to jam together. It was like acoustic at first, and then we added effects after. But yeah, it was like maybe like 3-4 years ago, I think, something like that. Yeah.
I think our project really, I guess, became a thing when we played at Mutek.
Yeah.
And I think after that, we were just like, okay, this can keep going.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I wanted to ask you too about the way that you've explained how nature influences your practice. And one, how do you experience nature as musicians to be able to influence your practice? And then I have a second part to that question.
Okay. Wow, that's a cool question. I think when well, in every situation in my life, I'm gonna be like often in a state of like deep listening or just like being very, very attentive to the sounds around me. But like when I'm in nature, especially, it becomes like a whole listening experience. And I'm gonna be like paying attention, especially to the birds, because I'm a big like bird nerd and I know all their calls and everything. But also just like, I don't know, we went to actually last year we were in Scotland to do like a field recording trip together. It was a workshop for a week, and we were just like for hours in like moss patches with like our headphones and our mics listening to the moss. It was just like such a eye-opening experience to just like, I don't know, have access to these universe. I find it like very fascinating. So we try to recreate those things in our music, not necessarily literally the same sound that you would hear in nature, but something like, I don't know, invented insects or creatures that don't exist, but to us, they have a special kind of life. Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, I mean, nature is a symphony, so it's just so beautiful when you're in nature to listen to all the sounds that are happening, and they're not necessarily like forcefully organized, but they sound organized. And I think in our music, we try to recreate that kind of structured chaos. So a lot of the time we're gonna try to imitate like maybe bird sounds, but without having a real bird recording. So how do you do that with electronics? So yeah, and we're also like super inspired by nature. As like Coco said, like we love playing at parks or outdoors. That's where we feel really inspired. So I think it's like a feedback loop between like nature and our music, and like both kind of just complement each other. Yeah.
And my second part to that question was because it has, well, because your music has this inherent nature angle to it, would you say that your project is inherently like environmentalist in a way?
Well, we definitely have like environmental values that we hold dear to our hearts. I guess, yeah, it can like it's a whole part of like how we experience nature and how we find like put importance in the environment, in nature in general. So yeah, it totally makes sense to say that like our project is also environmentalist. It might be like a nature that's not like the one that you can see where you go in the forest yourself, but it has as much value, I think.
Yeah, like the way that I experience our music, at least it's like whenever we play, it's a tribute to nature and creatures and things that we know, and also things that we can't see and touch. So yeah.
So what lies next for you two after your peak performance? Do you have any plans, anything that you're working on that you'd like to share?
Yeah, actually, we are working on an album and we're looking to record it this summer. We are also looking to collaborate with a visual artist to make a VR piece. So we would love to make a work in virtual reality and work with spatial audio and composition alongside nature inspired or augmented reality kind of visuals. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So the concept would be that the augmented nature that we try to recreate with our music would be visually accessible through the VR experience. So yeah, we're excited about this, but we're still looking for a visual collaborator. So if you have ideas, please let us know.
Yeah, if there are any visual artists out there who are watching, Echönymphia is your next collaborator. Thanks so much for joining me. You're tuned into Cybernetique online for Pique, and be sure to check out Echönymphia and keep your ears locked into their next project. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having us.